Vigo, Vicky, how are you doing?
Hi.
Good. How are you?
You've made a superb film. I really enjoyed it. And so Vigo, in the press notes, it states that the idea came from this image of your mother as a girl. So my first question is, bridge that gap. How do you go from that picture of your mom as a girl to casting Vicky as Vivian?
I've been fortunate. I've gotten to work with Vicky and got to know her a little bit, and they're obviously very different, but you have in common with my mom a very strong mind. No matter what the circumstances are, nobody's going to take away what you think about something. Nobody's going to manipulate your feelings about something. You're your own person and strong-willed and stubborn about it, and I think that's great. And that's the way my mom was, like the little girl you see who then becomes the woman Vivian in our story.
Vicky, Vivian is such a formidable character, and she's not afraid of anything, and she kind of like picks and chooses what she wants. And one of the best scenes is when she meets Holger at the fish market and says, "Hey, I like this guy." What made her instantly attracted to him? What made Holger stand out to her?
There's one, I like that in the movie you always have two versions. One is the more mysterious one, and one is the more down to earth, probably the reality of the time. So, one is, the romantic one is because he's very beautiful and she's immediately attracted to him and she looks at him and he has this air, sitting alone with his horse. Nowadays it would be the guy, who's like chewing a gum and on the baseball field, or I don't know, basketball field, like looking cool, and I'm the lonesome cowboy, which is something she feels kindred with because she's also alone in her world and in her way. And the other thing is, I think he was the only guy looking at her.
Everybody else is busy, it's true.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a bit of both, when people find each other, it's also timing. And I do think at that time he was lost and he knew maybe where he was going to go, but not really. Mm-hmm. She was definitely lost. She was telling herself she was independent and, dating that guy. But the truth is, you can tell she's pulling the chewing gum as far as she can go, like there's not further she could go with that guy. So she's also getting to an end and probably wondering what to do.
I don't think they expect to meet each other. I don't think either of them are looking for someone to be with all the time. In fact, the next day, I won't ruin it for people, but in the light of day, after, spending the night together, she kind of looks at him and he sounds kind of a little bit bumbling. And she's thinking, okay, how can I get rid of this guy? He's actually a bit of an idiot. Let's get rid of him as quick as possible. Where are you going next? And I say, who says I'm going anywhere? Yeah. And she sort of likes that. It's like, okay, he's got some guts. Let's see how this works out. But she's putting him to the test at the beginning a lot.
One of the most powerful scenes, from the film, without revealing spoilers, is when Vivian returns to the bar after what happens to her, right? And it shows this incredible courage. And for you both, there's a lot of silence in that scene, right? And I thought that was so striking. So Vivian, do you agree that it was best that she not say anything? And Viggo, why did you have that scene play so quietly for that character?
Yeah, I mean, it was written that way, but I immediately read and understood. It was one of the scenes that talked to me. And we didn't even talk about that scene. It was just so clear what it takes. And it's maybe because it's what I use a lot in many movies or in my life, is that I believe we are strongest when we accept our greatest weakness. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, that's what she's doing. And if you do that silent, a silent protest or a silent resistance is always stronger than the riot. And to me, that scene really resonated that.
Well, when I was writing the story, I was thinking, okay, this character, Vivian, some of the other characters as well, but especially her, I was imagining someone who could have a very strong presence, even in silence, and sometimes especially. It's just as important sometimes, or more important, what's not said in a movie. And I was dreaming of a character that would be like what Vicky did, but Vicky went much further. It surpassed what I was hoping for. If if you get lucky and you get Vicky to play this part, and it's someone else who maybe doesn't have that same presence or that same ability to transmit so much in silence, then you can't really hold on that shot so long of her, for example. But in this case, once Vicky said yes in the beginning, I was like, okay, now there's not a limit for this character to make a good Western with a strong woman at the center. We just have to do a good job of surrounding Vicky with good actors and do a good job of the storytelling. But I knew when you said yes that, okay, now this is going to be unusual.
Good you didn't tell me, because I wouldn't
handle
the pressure.
I don't want to make any pressure on you, but I knew it. I knew from what I'd seen you do before, but you went further, which is always great. Thank you.
All right, so let me ask a question from the metrics department, which I find pretty funny. So David Cronenberg's new film, The Shrouds, has just been released and getting a lot of critical acclaim over at Cannes. And so you worked with him for many years, Viggo, and I guess Vince Cassel took over for you because you couldn't star in that film. Did you have a chance to see it? What do you think of the final product?
I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I did work with Vincent, obviously, in Eastern Promises. He's a good actor. So, I look forward to seeing it.
Bravo. All right, so my last question, and this is kind of like a tonal question. I love Westerns. I love Louis L'Amour. I love Larry McMurtry. And Viggo and Vicky, you've managed to capture the grittiness of the Western frontier, but also this beautiful romance. So talk about basically capturing that perfect, middle line where it's not one or the other in both performances, please.
Well, I wanted to make a classic Western, so I'm glad you saw it that way, in terms of the look of things. You really see the characters, see the landscape. The language is historically correct, the slang. There's a diversity. The two main characters don't have English as their first language, so it's more representative of the way the country was, You don't just have a couple of Mexican bad guys or, in the background, some characters of different ethnicities. You see somewhat of a mixture of, and even in that small town. But I wanted to do all those things, but I also wanted to explore something that you don't usually see. What happens to women? What happens to little girls when their dads, their brothers, their partners, their sons even go off to war?
And the romance, because really when you say middle line, I think what it is that I think we both just wanted to do an honest story, like people that you believe that
a relationship. Yeah.
Like he shows her the house and she goes, "Oh, really? That's the house?" Like, that it's not what you expect, and therefore more honest and real. And
it's more real because it's a bit clumsy. There are some differences of opinion. They're both stubborn. But the thing that's good about both of them, even though there are mistakes made, especially from my character's side, that they don't always agree on everything, but they at least are interested in what the other person feels and thinks. And when both people do that, to at least some degree, that relationship can prosper. When one person decides, I'm not going to evolve, I'm not going to adapt to what you want, the relationship doesn't usually work out, or it just sort of it fades away, And in this case, they have lots of obstacles, some of them created by...
Well, he does get it too late, though, but...
Yeah, better late than never. No, but there's an understanding that they have. Yeah. There's a connection that they make that I think, like you say, is real. It's not a fanciful thing. It's like it's a love story, but it's hopefully a believable one. A love story.
Bravo. Great film, guys. I really enjoyed it. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.